Hello and welcome to the topic Power Sharing, Chapter 1, Political Science, Class 10. In this topic, we will be studying about the two countries, case studies, Belgium and Sri Lanka. Why power sharing is essential? What was the problem in Belgium? What was the problem in Sri Lanka? We'll be studying here. Belgium is a small country in Europe. It has Dutch, French speaking, and also German speaking people. There are around 59% of the total population of the country who live in the region called Flemish region, and there are 40% of the people who live in the region called Wallonia. There are also 1% of the people who live in the German region. Belgium, the map of Belgium, it is smaller than the state of Haryana. It has a population of a little over 1 crore, and the area is also half. It is less when compared to Haryana. This is another case study of Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, the population is diverse, different ethnic groups, and that is 74% is Sinhalese. Sinhala is the language of the native Sri Lankan people, and there are 18% of the Tamils who are largely situated in the north and eastern part of the island. We shall see in the map, constituting a very big, largest ethnic minority. There are also Muslims, there are also Hindus, there are also Christians. The map showing different kinds of people here in Sri Lanka, the segregation of their percentage. This is Belgium and Sri Lankan map. The capital of Belgium is Brussels. In the capital city, the French people are 80% and the Dutch people are 20%. The Dutch live in the region called as Flemish, and French live in the region called as Wallonia. In the capital, French are the majority, Dutch are the minority. In the mainland, 59% majority are the Dutch and 40% minority are the French. And there are also 1% German people living in different corners in the countryside of the country. So the French being majority, they gained all the advantages when compared to the other people, that is the Dutch and the German. They got all the advantages of infrastructure, sophistication, their employment, education, rights, everything they got much in advance when compared to the Dutch. The Dutch felt that they are not part of the country. That resulted in a hatred between the two communities. But they did not go for a war. There was no bloodshed, there was no violence. The problem was very systematically solved by the government of Belgium. How was it solved? We shall see. Another case of Sri Lanka, we can see in this map. We have the pink region, we have the brown region, we have the orange region, we have the yellow region. The yellow region, which is the majority that comprised of the Sinhalese, 74%. The orange region are the 18% of the people, the Sri Lankan Tamils. Now, this Sri Lankan Tamils can be divided into the Indian Tamils and the Sri Lankan. Indian Tamils are those people who went from India to work as plantation workers in Sri Lanka. They lived in the brown regions. There are also Muslims who are living in the pink regions. In 1956, an official act was passed in Sri Lanka to recognize Sinhala, the native language, as the only official language, and therefore disregarding Tamil. The governments followed preferential policies and it favored Sinhala people, their applicants for the university positions, for the government jobs, for education, for every opportunity. And the Tamils felt that they are alienated. The new constitution, which gave the power to the religion Buddhism to be fostered, they felt that Buddhism has to be developed because that is followed by the Sinhala people who are 74%. This majority people imposed their power on the minority who are less in number. The Tamils felt that the constitution and the government policies denied them equal opportunities. Their preference, which was given to the Sinhalas and the other people, were deprived from government jobs. Their interests were ignored. Their religion was at stake. Their language was at stake. At the economic front, no employment, educational opportunities, university positions, everything went to the Sinhalas, and this created a civil war. The army may not be involved, but normal people, citizens like you and me, were involved. By 1956 Act, many Sri Lankan Tamils were killed, and many of them were forced to leave their own country. They had threat in their own country. Many lost their livelihood. Most of them left their country, came to India as refugees, seeking shelter in our country. Sri Lanka Civil War happened from 1983 to 2009. The intention behind the Civil War was to create an independent state. That independent state in north and eastern part that comprised of the Tamils, they asked for a separate ALM, a separate state, northeast country. This civil war was initiated by Velu Pillai Prabhakaran. This initiation was to launch the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Elam, LTTE. Elam means state. So, to liberate these Tamils who were deprived of opportunities in their own country, who have to get the placement or accommodation. But that did not happen, so that resulted in a war like situation, the civil war. People forced, compelled to leave their own country, go to some other country, seek for shelter. So, power sharing is desirable. If power is not entrusted to all the social groups, economic groups, all the people, they will feel that they are alienated. The people of Sri Lanka, they felt that they are alienated, they are separate, they do not belong to the national territory. Any person born in the land is entitled to the rights by birth. Right is a claim for what they have to get, which is the claims by birth. By birth, it should be granted. Some get the opportunities and other don't get the opportunities. That is discrimination. The government should resolve the problem. It could not happen in Sri Lanka, but it happened in Belgium. How? Let us see. So, when the power is desirable, it is shared, it is most expected. The meaning of democracy itself is demos and cratia. Cratia means rule, demos people, a rule which is with the people's consent. The prudential reason, the most practical reason without which democracy success cannot be formed. it tells that the power is entrusted to different groups, it will reduce the conflict. Any possibility of conflict is there between the social groups, maybe with regard to language, with regard to religion, with regard to culture, all those social conflicts will come to an end. This will lead to violence if power is not entrusted. When power is entrusted, violence also will stop. When violence is there, that will lead to political instability, and by granting power, the violence will stop, political instability also will stop. The government will be safe and sound. It will ensure that the political order, law and order is granted to the people. People are safe. There is peace and harmony in the country. The prudential reason, the power sharing helps in reducing the conflict between various social groups. Hence, power sharing is necessary for maintaining social harmony, peace in the country. In India, seats are reserved for the weaker sections of the society. Example, reservation of seats for the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. This allows the weaker sections to participate in the running of the government, in the maintenance of the government. And on the other side, the moral reason which says that ethically, morally, the meaning of democracy truly means that citizens should get right. Citizens should have a risk. They should be participating in the governance. They should know the policies. They should be the makers of the policies. They should be part of the governance. In India, the citizens can come together to debate and criticize the policies and decisions of the government. This in turn puts pressure on the government to rethink, to recheck its policies, to reconsider their decisions. The aims, aspirations of the people should be kept in mind while framing the policies. The manifesto, the declaration of policies which the political parties gave, they should live up to it. Accommodation policy in Belgium. How did the Belgium resolve the problem of accommodation? The ethnic composition, the conflict which had between the Wallonia region people and the Flemish region people, that was resolved. 4 times the constitution was amended from 1970 to 93, and mostly all the regions people were kept in the mind. The central government, the state government, and the community government, all were created. Equal representation was given to the state government as well as the community government. Every member from any part of the country, they can vote for their community. That's how their cultural interests can be safeguarded. The 5 types of power sharing are: the horizontal power sharing, that is between the legislative, executive, and judiciary. Legislative, the law making body; executive, the law implementing body; judiciary, the law safeguarding body. All are at the same level, horizontally on the same line. Each one is separately entrusted their duty, but it is ensured that every organ is not having unlimited power. It is checking one another, and this constant check is making a system of checks and balances. For example, if we take power sharing, the ministers are responsible for their duty. Maybe the parliament or the state assemblies, everywhere each one has to be accountable. Everyone should be taking responsibility for the job which is entrusted. The judges are appointed by the executive, and they check the functioning of the executive. The laws are implemented properly or not. If any violation is there, the judiciary checks that the constitutional principles are not violated. Then the power which is entrusted to the social groups, different groups based on culture, religion, caste. Reservation of constitution, that is reserved constituencies, for example for the scheduled caste, so that the socially, economically, those who were deprived, they got now representation. For times immemorial who lost opportunities. Now representation is there. The constitution makers, the different stalwarts in the 8 member drafting committee, they have taken all measures to give accommodation for the unprivileged sections. Power is also distributed by the political parties. The political parties come up with their manifesto, declaration of policies, and they see that their objectives are fulfilled. The pressure groups and movement groups, they exert pressure on the government based to environment safeguarding, sustainable development, and different issues. They may not be in the political parties, but they will make their voice very clear. Movement groups like Narmada Bachao Andolan, Tehri Dam Andolan, this created sensation in the movement. At that time, they created the sensation, but the effect of it is long lasting. Through a PIL, public interest litigation, they have created awareness in the country. During the VP Singh government, the Prime Minister, the grant of the 27% reservation for the OBC, socially, economically, and backward section, backward caste, these people should come up. Different forms of power sharing in the modern democracies. We can take example at the horizontal. We just discussed power shared between legislative, executive, and judiciary. Each organ is checking one another, and so it is called as the system of checks and balances. At the vertical division of power, we have topmost the center distributing power to the state. State is governing at the state level, and at the local level, we have the local government, that is the district government, that is further dividing into mandal and village panchayat, the municipalities and the municipal corporations, the gram panchayat, which will safeguard the rights and the developmental aspects are taken care at the village level. The constitution now lays down the powers for each and every level of government. So the power can also be shared among different groups which differ socially. For example, different religious groups, language groups, community groups. This example, we can see that community of Belgium has created a community government, and that community government to safeguard the cultural interests of the people, reserved constituencies, reserved seats are given. In our country, reserved seats are there for the unprivileged, also for the minority, so that representation is there for all these regions, and no one should feel that they are alienated. All are part of the country, part of the government. Division of power among the political parties, pressure groups, and movement groups in the contemporary democracies is very essential, because it is a political, uh, what do we call, it is a competition, it is a contest where each political party will come up with the agenda, and each one will ensure that power is not remaining in one hand, but it is shared among different people belonging to different political parties. One single political party does not get the majority. Two or more parties with maybe different ideologies, but they come to protect the common interests of the people by forming the coalition government. So the reasons for the power sharing in the Indian context, we have seen that practically when power is given prudentially, when power is given, conflict will be resolved. Conflict will be resolved, violence will be resolved. Violence will be resolved, political instability will be ending, and there will be a stable government. There will be peace and harmony in the country, and seats are given for the weaker sections. There is proportional representation. Each one can voice out their opinion. That's what happened in our country. Seats for the scheduled tribe, scheduled caste, and the women 33%. Having completed 75 years of Indian independence, today we are having India as a model for power sharing, where different groups are having different representations, and every community is taken care of. And this PowerPoint presentation is made my two girls of my class, P. Vaishnavi, D. Harshita of class 10 made this PowerPoint presentation, and I take privilege in explaining this concept and also learning by doing so. My dear children, all the best for the term 1. With this, I have uploaded all the lessons of the term 1. I am coming up with revision in 2-3 days. Please follow the revision. Please text me for your queries, any kind of help or support which I can give in my own way. I shall be glad to do so. And please give your valuable comments. They are very, very motivating for people like me to do work for you all. Thank you so much. God bless each one of you.